Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a paid advertising. TheOnlyGround.com, onlyground.com is one of the most amazing places for information that I consistently go to. If you guys want to have conversations about our old interviews or even topics that we don't discuss, the group of people that are on the onlyground.com message boards are some of the most brilliant that I have ever come across. Those little like knick-knack facts that we get here and there, that's where a lot of it comes from. Please check out the link in the bio.
Welcome to the Lights Out Podcast. This is Chris Lights Out Lionel, and this is our journey to document the history of mixed martial arts. I have brought with me my friend, the MMA detective Mike Davis, and together we will preserve the history and hear some great stories from the world in the era of the no holds barred. Thank you and enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, very special guest by way of Joe Pardo, probably one of the most prolific promoters in the entire country. Roland Sarria, a man that started at the very beginnings of mixed martial arts in the West LA gym of Rickson Gracie. Roland Sarria, there's a lot to talk about with you, buddy.
You know, you're right. I'm extremely well liked. I just love being who I am. and those fighters and the people that talk bad about me, guess what? You got old and you're broke, and I'm rich and handsome still.
Okay, so we're gonna get to that. Like we've had Joe Riggs, we've had Seth Bagzinski, we've had Jamie Varner. We'll get to all that.
No, I'm just trying to be funny.
Oh no, it's cool. But let's talk about the beginnings, like your beginnings. 96, 97. What year did you start jiu-jitsu?
I started in the summer of 1994.
Okay, oh, wow. So were you inspired by UFC 1? Were you one of those guys?
Yeah, I got to see them. But what happened was I met this guy named Carlos Vilches at the park. There was an old friend of mine from high school, and he was training with the Gracies in West LA. And I didn't know what he was talking about. And then I wrestled him, on the park, and he felt like an octopus. And it won me over that second. And then the next day I went to West LA, about half an hour from where I grew up. And I was hooked. It was a great, great time. It was one of the greatest times of my life.
All right. So you started with Rickson's gym then, correct?
I did, yes.
So you were after the split from Torrance, or was he kind of bouncing back and forth?
I came after the split.
Okay. You came after the split.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember who your instructors were?
Yeah, my instructors were Rickson Gracie, Lamone, Mauricio, and Jason.
Okay. So was Ken Gabrielson there?
No, Ken Gabrielson. I met Ken Gabrielson 2 years later.
Okay.
With Rodrigo Gracie.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the beginnings. What was your experience like? Were people coming in and out off the street doing looking for challenge matches? Just how crazy was it?
Well, their academy was sort of like a hole in the wall. And I believe it was a karate studio. It was like in the back of an alley almost in West LA. There was no storefront. It was really like back, like one of those movies, like in the old days. A lot of fighters used to come in from Brazil. Wally Ishma, Gorgel came by. There was a lot of them. Now, a lot of those guys, I didn't really know them because I didn't come from a martial art background. I didn't even know who the Gracies were, to be honest with you. I was sort of like a guinea pig because I was very athletic and I was really strong, but I didn't have much technique. So they would kind of throw me out there and see how I would do. But yeah, I got to see the fight with Yoshi, the wrestler from
Japan.
From Japan, so I was there for that.
Okay, so Yoshi and Joe showed up at the academy, wanting to
Yeah, I
fight
was there.
Rickson. Okay, was it a closed door affair, or were you guys allowed to watch?
We were allowed to watch. What happened was we were having class. Rickson wasn't there yet. And all of a sudden, a bunch of Japanese people were coming in with reporters and etc. At this moment, I didn't know what was going on. I was doing class. And then next thing you know, Rickson came in on a bike with duct tape around his knuckles. And then Rickson told them, or Mauricio, I wasn't sure who told them to get out for a second. Rickson came in, start warming up, doing all his exercises, and we circled around the mat and the outside. Rockson was there, so was Kron, and Henry Akins, Mark Edgar, all the superstars from the beginning. And the next thing you know, the reporters and the Japanese people came in, they closed the doors, and then it was on.
Okay, so was there shaking hands prior, or did Yoshi just come in and it was clear as day what he was there for?
They both knew what they were there for. They bowed and they stood. They got on their fighting stance, and Rickson did his traditional stomp with the jab, shot in roughly around waist level, took him down, and just seriously, he beat the living shit out of him. I mean, it was brutal. And when I say brutal, I mean brutal. Like, was black and blue with just, he was so lumped up. It wasn't even, it was like an old-fashioned Brazilian Rio de Janeiro street ass whooping. And I'll never forget Rockson yelling. Rickson had him in the mount, and Rickson, I'll never forget it, looked at Ron and told him to shut up in Brazilian, and then went back to punish the Japanese guy. And then he put the choke in. It was so deep that blood was coming out of his nose and mouth. And Rickson got up and did the traditional stomp on the head. It was awesome. I loved it.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
cool. And then
was there video?
Rickson,
did the Japanese people videotape it?
I think they both did, actually, but I don't think Rickson ever released it. And
no, he doesn't release any of his videos. Like, he's got videos of him versus Mark Schultz, numerous other dojo challenges, and he hasn't released a single thing.
Yeah, I heard a rumor once when I was training there. He went to Russia, I think, or somewhere, and he had a fight with somebody, but I don't know who won. But yeah, I remember hearing about that slightly when I was there. I watched Rickson wrestle Borgel. I'm sorry, not wrestle, jiu-jitsu with the gi on.
Borgel. Okay.
Borgel was the Mundial world champion.
Okay.
That was kind of cool.
Well, I mean, how would you say it went?
Well, I mean, it seemed friendly. I would say Rickson was getting the best out of him. Rickson was, I mean, there's a lot of respect with each other. They're kind of going real slow. Rickson tapped him out, but I don't think they were going like full balls out. It was more of a respect thing. I can't remember Gorgel's instructor. He was there too. He's pretty famous, but I can't remember his name. And then, do you remember the guy that used to go to Rickson's that died recently, a couple of years ago? He was a Greek wrestler. His name was, he was an actor. I can't remember his name, but he was always there training with us. Big, Groming Recco Greek Olympic wrestler, but I can't remember his name though. He was tough, real tough.
So at Rickson's school, I mean, how long were you there for?
I was there a little over 2 years.
And in those 2 years, did you get a lot of mat time with Rickson?
I wouldn't say a lot of mat time, but I did roll with him several times. You know, me and Rickson had a really good relationship, um, inside and outside. When we grappled, you know, obviously I wasn't at his level. It didn't matter how strong I was. I couldn't do anything. He was very gentle with me when we grappled. I was a little young, kind of rough, but with Rickson, I didn't go rough because I knew he would whoop me. So I took it easy. I didn't go that hard, you know, crazy that is. But yeah, I was there. His Valutudo number 2 when he was getting ready. There would be a lot of kickboxers coming in, training with him as well on the side. So yeah, I got to roll with him a couple times. It was fun. He was strong as hell, by the way. You know, a lot of people don't realize how strong he was. I don't. I've wrestled a lot of Olympic wrestlers. I mean, I can go on and on. I'm not going to say who they were, but I never really felt they were that strong. But I thought Rickson was strong. One of the few guys. You know, I went against Margarita Puentes, the absolute Mundial champion that destroyed every black belt in the world within a minute at the time. I went almost 10 minutes with him. And they tricked my ass. I didn't know he was that big. I came in at, I think, 169. He was like 2 something, all steroid out. And he was strong though. He was really good. I partied like a rock star the night before.
Okay. Well, I mean, in the Phoenix, Arizona scene, I've got in my notes, and I don't know how accurate they are, that you opened your first gym in 1996.
Yes, in 1996, I opened my very first gym with Ken Gaberson and Rodrigo Gracie. They attended it, supported me. John Lober was there too.
Oh, really?
I trained a lot with John Lober, by the way, a lot.
Okay.
When John Lober was in his peak, I was training with John Lober quite a bit.
Let's get to it. Let me just kind of stay a little bit focused right here. So, in 1996, you open up your gym, but at this time, there was another gym in Phoenix with the owner named Richard Hamilton. Do you remember him?
I know Richard very well. Yeah, we had Megaton here, and we had the Gracie Academy here too, as well. One of the subdivisions.
Let's talk about Richard Hamilton.
Okay.
What was your experience like with him?
I got along great with Richard Hamilton. He was training Dan Severin,
Mark Coleman.
Mark Coleman. There was another guy, the big Don Fry. There was another big giant wrestler. I can't remember his name.
Mark Kerr.
Not Kerr. Well, Mark was there, but there was another one too, but I can't remember his name.
Wait. Obaki.
Which one?
Obaki.
No, not that one. It was a big Olympic white guy, a grizzly bear. But Erickson? He fought in the UFC a couple times. But
okay.
So I went to his class one time, and I seen all those guys training, and it was balls out, you know, wrestling style. Not a lot of technique in terms of submissions, but just brute power, you know, just. And I was going to go roll with them. And I got to be honest with you, I was hoping they would invite me to join in, but they never did. But I'm sure they would have let me because I wanted to feel it. I was probably about 170 at the time, but I felt pretty confident I can do. I felt pretty confident I can do decent with them. At that time, I was a lot younger. I was in my early 30s.
Okay, so Richard Hamilton, what was your overall opinion of him as an instructor?
Well, you know, those were the pioneer days. As far as submission, obviously he was limited, but in terms of motivation, strategy, and etc., I thought he was fantastic. Personally, he was good.
Do you remember why he left the Phoenix scene?
Yeah, I believe he got in trouble. I can't remember if he had sex with a younger girl or.
All right, dude, here's the thing. All right. So Richard Hamilton is in the witness protection program.
Right.
It's not even his real name.
Oh,
Then
really? Oh.
then he goes to like where the Olympic training facility is, grabs a whole bunch of wrestlers, forms a super team under his not real name, and then goes on pay-per-view trying to get as much camera time as possible.
Okay.
So when I interviewed off camera some of the guys in the room that you just mentioned, they would say, yeah, dude, he started kind of telling us little things here and there, and then we started putting things together, and then the Fed showed up asking us about like what kind of contact he's got with children. So he was actually in a witness protection program,
Right.
having a school there, probably for the same allegation that you just mentioned right now. And it's one of those mysteries of MMA. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it was his wife or girlfriend. I remember her because Richard and his girlfriend used to host grappling tournaments, and they were actually really good. And I actually seen Richard when he got out of prison. He came to one of my grappling events, and we caught up. But me personally, I got along good with Richard. He never bothered me at all. I mean, never did me wrong. But he seemed professional when it came to training. Professional. He got a lot of respect,
Wow.
and he took control, initiative. I was impressed.
Wow.
You know, obviously he liked submissions, but with those guys, you kind of didn't need it back in those days. Maybe I don't know. Those guys are just pure power.
Yeah, you need submission defense for those guys. And Steve Owens. Do you remember the early trainer Steve Owens?
You know what? I think Steve Owens, is he the guy out of New York or somewhere?
He was one of Don, I think he was Don Frye's original trainer.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've ever met him, but I think I used to see him at my events. But I didn't really know him, no.
Okay.
But I did know Don Frye. You know, he came to my events. He was, you know.
That early Arizona scene is it's like the Wild West. And
Oh, yeah.
it really was. And then like
It was the Wild West.
yeah, and then you became like the big sheriff in town.
Oh, no, it wasn't the sheriff. I was the Lone Ranger.
Okay, well, we can phrase it, either way. So in 96, you open up your gym. Let's talk about Ken Gabriel's. Well, wait a minute. When you were at that West LA gym, you interacted with a really early Erik Paulson as well.
Erik was awesome. Erik was a bartender, Manhattan Beach at the time, good-looking surfer-looking guy. I trained with Erik all the time, and I would go to his bar occasionally. Erik was just a super guy, man. The guy was just so likable. And there was a gym in Redondo Beach where Rico Cipolleti, Rico Rodriguez, and Erik Paulson will be there. And I remember when Erik fought that whatever tournament it was with Renzo Gracie in it.
He fought James Waring.
Right. And next thing you know, he wasn't really at the Rickson Academy no more. I've heard rumors that they pretty much told him he had to leave because of the fact that he was in the tournament with one of the Gracies. Back in those days, those Brazilians, they were very mafia, very territorial.
Protective.
When I left Rickson Gracie school and I went to King Gabrielson, a white American black belt, I took so much shit from those motherfuckers. Every tournament. Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, dude, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I took so much shit from those guys, calling me Kron, setting me up with all these Brazilian champions at every belt level. I competed at white, blue, brown. Purple, brown, and black. I went against the best they had. And you know what? I did this for fun. I never trained. I was a male stripper at the time. I party, banging women. I didn't know what training was. But these dudes, that's all they did for a living. But anyways, what I'm getting at is back in those days, what they did to Erik Paulson and Ken Gaberson and me, non-Brazilians, was criminal. They did everything they can to slow us down and just mock us. I'll never forget when Ken Gaberson took on a Brazilian guy. I can't remember. I think his name was Gustavo, I think. And they did a black belt match. And it was just terrifying for Ken to be out there. And I think the other guy won, but it was close. But, they're making, calling him Kron, making fun of him. You're a fake, blah, blah, blah. And it was just bullshit. And Erik Paulson, I think he went with the Machados after Rickson. I'm not too sure. Because, he was one of the Dirty Dozen guys that's not included.
Well, dude, I am of the opinion that he's a part of the Dirty Half Dozen.
Absolutely, he is. You kidding?
Yeah.
Erik Paulson is the epitome of a martial artist. He's the real deal, made out of steel. Let me tell you something about Erik. He's a guru. When it comes to offensive submission, oh my God. Let me tell you something. That guy was a trailblazer. He was so ahead of his time. He was twilight years ahead of everyone offensively.
If I can interject, just so people at home, and you listen to this podcast, you already know this. I'm just going to restate it anyway. In the late 80s, he was taking privates with Rickson and Royce. Yeah. We did a podcast with Erik Paulson, and somebody would just kind of throw a name at him of some just not a real martial artist, and he'll go, "Oh, it's on this street and that street." He tried to find the greatest martial arts or the concepts of martial arts 10 years before the UFC even existed.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
King Gaberson was the same way, by the way. But Erik Paulson was a guru. That guy, he was incredible. And when people made fun of him when he fought, when the guy grabbed his hair, bullshit. You know what? It's easy for those pussies to be on TV making fun of Erik. That was bullshit. Erik fought like a warrior, man. That guy was twice his size, and et cetera. But Erik did well. I was proud. I was proud of Erik, but he took a lot of shit for that.
He did. And that James Waring fight, I've watched it recently. It's one of the hardest things to watch because of just how barbaric it was. Yeah.
I went to the show, I want to say in Alabama or Oklahoma when John Lober fought. I was one of the cornermen for John Lober when he fought the Russian guy. I can't remember his name, though.
Igor Zinoviev. Yep.
I was there for that match. That was a good event. That's when the promoter was there. I can't remember his name, some Italian name. Perretti.
John Perretti.
John Perretti. He was a slickster. He dressed in black. He looked like straight out of a movie.
Go ahead. Keep saying. What more about John Perretti can you say?
Well, I didn't really know.
Just so you know, he listens, and he and I communicate almost daily. Please go ahead.
I didn't really know John. I thought he was cool looking, man. Good looking guy, dressed sharp. I was really young. He was older than I was. I was like, man, that dude looks cool. I liked it. You know what? I want to share this with you. When you're a good-looking guy, you're dressed really nice, like Petrelli, there's a lot of jealous people out there. Now if he was an ugly, fat guy or dork, everyone would love him. So when you're good-looking and you're dressed sharp like him, believe it or not, it's like a curse. People always got something to say bad. Like they're so jealous. All these people were jealous. But again, I don't really know the guy. I just thought that the guy was a trailblazer, pioneer, and he had the balls and the courage to do what he did. I'm impressed.
Modern MMA, isn't the first few UFCs. It's when Perretti started matchmaking. Like you said, Lober versus Zinoviev. Incredible fight. Like in the modern era, it's an incredible fight. So Sean Lober, what was his reputation like in the LA scene?
Well, I heard a lot of things about John Lober as far as, or whatever you call it. I didn't really care. I didn't get to see any of that. Not that I would care at all. But John, at least with me, John was awesome. Me and John had a lot of battles together. We went to war, but it was always professional. I had a great experience with John. When I was at Ken Gaberson's school, I'll tell you what, man, that gym had some badasses. These guys were not jiu-jitsu guys. These guys were tough, street guys from Huntington Beach, and et cetera, and it was totally different than Rickson's school. Rickson's school was more, back in those days, Rickson's school was sort of like self-defense, but yet BJJ, sort of. Not like it is today. Today is just sport, you know what I mean? In those days, Rickson Gracie's school was kind of like a hybrid, self-defense along with BJJ. But King Gaberson's school was the same way, but I would say more tailor-made for MMA.
Oh. Lober in the gym, was he? Is he one of those guys that always had his foot on the gas? Or was he open to exchanging ideas? And
he was open to exchange ideas. John Lober was a cool motherfucker, man. He was cool. I like John to death. Matter of fact, I seen John in the mall here in Scottsdale, Arizona. You ready for this? About a year ago with some little poodle walking in the mall with a dog. Can you believe that shit? I almost died laughing. I said, John. He looked at me. He goes, Roland, oh my God. I said, what the hell are you doing walking around with the dog? He goes, oh, I'm trying to get some girls. I said, oh, good idea. I like that.
Lober is a guy that at his peak was arguably at one point he touched, in my opinion, he was number one in the world. When he beat Frank Shamrock and he drew against Igor Zinoviev, in my opinion, right there, I mean, he drew because there was no judges. If you watch the fight and there was judges, he won. Lober was number one at that point in the world. I mean, when he crashed, but at his peak, he was number one.
Oh, yeah. John was no joke. John was a cool dude, man. I have nothing but great things to say about John. I always got along. You know what? I got along with all my Matt friends. I just didn't get along with the other gyms. Because, look, back in those days, and when I moved to Arizona in 96, I was an outsider. I didn't come from Arizona. So some of these gym instructors were doing everything they can to destroy me, my credibility. They wouldn't support me. The whole Brazilian monkey group got together and tried to sabotage me, calling me fake black belt. Look, I can go on and on and on what those guys did to me. And then the little dummy American guys followed the pack like little sheep. And they were like little sheep, and the shepherd was misleading them into the cave with the wolves. And I used to sit there and I used to warn them and say, hey, dude, don't fall for that bullshit, dude. Trust me, I've been there already, man. But they didn't listen to me.
Why did you leave Rickson's gym?
I knew early on that I wasn't part of the Brazilian cult. Back in those days, it felt like a cult. And I knew that I was going to be limited on my growth, getting promoted and learning. It felt like they were threatened a little bit, and they were trying to sort of, I wouldn't say keep you down, but you had to do a lot of privates, and it was very secretive back then.
What do you mean,
And
a lot of privates? Like in terms of to get belt promotions?
well, no, I did a lot of privates with Lamone, Jason, and Mauricio, so I can learn at a faster pace.
You talking about Mark Lehman or
No, not
Lamone?
Mark Lehman. No, it was Mauricio, Jason, and
Okay.
Mauricio were the instructors.
Okay.
And so
Yes,
I
he would've
took
been there at
private
the time.
so I can learn at a faster pace.
Okay.
And
Did you feel like it was intentionally slowed down?
I don't think it was personal. I think it was just the way it was back then. I felt very liked by them. Don't take me wrong. They treated me great. I just felt that it felt like a cult to me, like I wasn't really totally in their circle. All they wanted to do, a lot of them smoke weed and just whatever. And I wasn't really part into that. And then what happened was this friend of mine said to me one day, "Hey, Roland, there's this gym in Orange County with Rodrigo Gracie, Rickson Gracie's cousin, and a guy named Ken Gaberson, an American black belt. I think if you go there, I think you'll have more opportunities and you will be treated more evenly." And I checked it out, and I ended up staying there because Ken Gaberson was awesome. Rodrigo was cool. For a Brazilian guy, he was pretty Americanized. He was cool. And then after that, I felt their wrath at every tournament now. God damn it. Huh?
So you left because you didn't feel like you were kind of part of the group.
Not that I needed to be part of the group, but I felt that it was just too cliquey. It was just too Brazilian for me, that I wasn't used to that, and I didn't like it. I don't like getting on the mat with some Brazilian from Brazil, and my own instructors are coaching the other guy instead of me, stuff like that. I didn't really like it. And I don't regret what I did, but in a lot of ways, I paid the big price. And, I also self-promoted myself too. So
Right.
how many guys that had the balls to do that back in those days? That's right, balls. And guess what?
Mark Schultz.
And guess what else? I got on the mat, not like those pussy instructors that got black belts inside the academy that never competed in their lives, those cowards. But yet they want to make fun of me. But I competed against the best of the best. They did not.
So let me kind of bring this full circle because we're getting a little bit scattered. I've got some other early questions as well. So you promoted yourself to black belt was it 2000? What year was it? 2004?
No, a lot earlier. I want to say probably around 99 or
99. Okay. So you promoted, here it is. You promoted yourself in 2000.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. Higgin Machado called me, and I was a brown belt at the time, and he said, "Roland, you a super match with David Myers." And I turned around and said, "Well, I'm not a black belt." And then Higgin goes, "Come on, Roland. You can compete with black belts or whatever." I said, "Yeah, I'll take them on." So I went out there. We went 10 minutes. No score. They gave him an advantage point. And some Brazilian came up to me and said, "Hey, who promoted you?" I looked at the monkey and I said, "You seen the match, right?" He goes, "Yeah." "Do I look like I'm a black belt?" He didn't say anything. I said, "Oh, I'll tell you who promoted me. God did." I wanted to promote it. Some instructor, "I'm a fake black belt. I'm fake." Really? Really, huh? I got on the mat, always. I don't need to get promoted by nobody.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about kind of, I think it's healthy to kind of quantify this. So Joe Pardo, if you listen to our Joe Pardo interview, and as we had talked about earlier, Erik Paulson, the really early Americans that got there right after UFC one, not the ones that got there before UFC one. Well, Erik Paulson. It seemed like you guys had a weight on you, and you were never going to make black belt. In fact, Joe Pardo in our interview said, at some point you just realize you're never going to make black belt. I mean, there's a couple guys that left. Lowell Anderson, they left because they weren't getting, the promotion that they believed that they had deserved. And it's got to be incredibly frustrating, especially when you want to compete. Now, that doesn't make an excuse whether it's right or wrong. That's the reality of the situation. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, very true. I trained with Bo several times. Bo was in class with me all the time. Yeah, I know Bo very well. Bo was a badass.
You talk Bo Hirschberger.
Yeah,
Hirschberger. There's another guy that left. The guy that was never going to make play. I think he made brown belt, was the highest he made.
Right. Henry started with me. Henry went all the way through. Henry Akins. Henry Akins was a badass. He was no joke. Henry was extremely technical. Very good.
Yeah, Hirschberger took third in Abu Dhabi, and they wouldn't promote him to black belt. It's wild. I mean, it's like, so there's got to be a little bit of frustration at that point, especially when you're dedicating your entire life to something and all your time, and you're doing the privates, and did you pay for the instructor course as well?
No, hell no. I wasn't no sheep, man. I was born to be a lion.
Would you mind telling our listeners what the instructor course at Rickson's Academy was like?
I don't think they had one, to be honest with you. The only instructing course that they had is let's smoke weed after class.
Okay. Let's talk about. Go ahead.
Well, they did have a couple students that I want to say that they would clean the school and sleep there. I don't really know what they were doing, but there was I don't remember any instructional program at the Rickson Gracie. The Rickson Gracie school was not structured. It was very primitive, somewhat disorganized. It was kind of like being in Brazil, and just training. I loved it personally. The instructors were awesome. Like I said, I have nothing bad to say about any of them, other than I felt it was very cliquey. But yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Was Rickson there a lot?
No, not a lot. No. Rickson would show up. I mean, he probably did show up more than I got to see him. But when I was there, I didn't see him that much personally. He would teach class once in a while, and then once in a while, when they now I remember, I was there during the filming of Choke, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I was there. I trained with Rickson that day, and all the other guys, and Mark. You remember a guy named Mark? Mark. He was one of Rickson's top brown belts that never got his black. Mark Eckert. You remember Mark Eckert?
Yes, I do. I have his name here, actually.
Me and Mark trained together all the time. Mark was a fairly good jiu-jitsu friend of mine. He never got promoted to black. It was just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Here, the argument is, well, Rickson's got so few black belts. There's just the apologists will say, well, he had just such a high standard. He just couldn't promote black belts that just didn't meet his standard. And then on the other side, it's, he's never at the gym. Like, he's got purple belts that's never seen him. Like, there's you can hear the argument on both sides. Like, I'm a guy that's not even a one stripe white belt. I've never owned a gi in my life. So I should probably sit back and shut my mouth about it. But as an analyst, like, it's an interesting argument with one volume turned up very high, and then the opposing volume always kind of, like you had said, it's kind of cultish. They tend to get drowned out by the choir.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. I've seen a lot of guys come through the academy that they left because of. I would say most of the times when they left is because these are the higher ranked guys, because I think they realized that they weren't really gonna get promoted. Mark Eckert, my God, he was one of the early high ranked jiu-jitsu guys under Rickson, and they just kept him down forever. And I don't know
Wow.
the story on that. I don't know what happened with that part, why, but yeah, I think Mark left finally and just stopped. You know, another guy, I can't remember his name. He's a Japanese guy, I think. He has a podcast. He trained with Ken Gaberson and everyone. I can't remember his name.
Is it Barrett Yoshida?
What is it?
I don't know if he's got a podcast. Barrett Yoshida?
No, not Barrett. There was
He's
another guy,
OG.
but anyway, that's another whatever. But
Uh-huh.
but yeah, a lot of the guys, the high ranked guys, they left because I'm assuming they felt that, you know, they weren't going to go anywhere. Now keep in mind, a lot of these guys were paying a lot of money to train there. It was not cheap, by the way. I mean, you know, back in the early 1994, you're paying over $100 a month.
July 1997, Joe Moriera is doing grappling tournaments. And he's got the Joe Moriera Invitational Open at the Burns Event Center. And you've got Rockson Gracie going up against Manny Gambirian in a jiu-jitsu match.
I was there.
How did that unfold, in your opinion?
Well, what I seen is Rockson was losing, and he was inside, what's his name's guard, and bit him in the groin. And then the Armenian guy, the guy you just said, I can never pronounce his name, Manny.
Yeah.
Manny got pissed off and jumped up and started to like fist fight him or yell at him. And then all the Armenians and the Brazilians, it was like a riot. I remember that clearly.
Armenians are generally very level-headed, much like Brazilians. I can't believe that those two went at it like that.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you said that. You're right. They're very similar. They don't have the intellectualness like us Cubans. We're a lot smarter.
Oh, yeah, Cubans. Yeah, you guys are so level-headed as well. Yeah,
I'm keeping it real.
Man,
I'm not trying to be funny. But...
Hey, bro, we do events in Miami for BKFC. Whoo, some of them Cubans at weigh-ins, boy. Whoo, man, dude, you guys are hot-tempered. You guys are hot-tempered as well.
We're hot-tempered, but we're very intellectual. Look at Rubio,
true.
Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz. I mean, we're a very intellectual heritage, very smart, really smart.
I mean, not to get too far off the beaten path, being from law enforcement, you know, the number one rule, don't use your own product. The number two rule is, if you're Mexican, don't do business with the Cuban, because your business will be their business. That's always the number two rule. Yeah.
It will be your business. It will.
Yeah. For sure. All right. So Rockson Gracie, Kron Gracie, you mentioned him earlier. How would you describe their relationship with their father, Rickson?
Well, I remember one time we were going paintball shooting, and Rockson was probably about, I don't know, 10 years old, and Kron was maybe 6. And they were in the back seat of the SUV, and Rockson kept picking on Kron. Next thing you know, Rickson gets in the back of the seat and disciplines him with the noise that I've never heard before. So in other words, Rickson disciplined Rockson for messing with Kron. So Kron was very, very young, quiet, nice kid, sweet, loving. Rockson was cocky, almost like he was sort of reckless. He was sort of out of control. I mean, with me, he was great, you know, but that's what I seen with him. So I could see him, he was on a path of, destruction.
Oh, really?
Well, he just seemed real kind of like wild, and he felt invincible. His father is Rickson Gracie, and he just had that swagger about him, that, hey, I'm Rickson's son. You better look up to me, blah, blah, blah. But me personally, he was great with me. I mean, I had no problem with him at all.
Wow.
But, obviously, we all heard what happened to him, but it doesn't surprise me.
Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, you're not the only person to say that. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and Kron, I mean, Abu Dhabi world champion. I think he's got a UFC fight coming up. It's I honestly, like, I know his last fight, people kind of stuck their nose up at it. It was kind of a stinker, but I root for the guy. Like, I really want to see him do well. Like, I know he's living in Montana in the middle of nowhere right now. In 1998, you started Rage in the Cage. How many events have you done?
Well, under the commission, I think it was close to 300.
How many outside of the commission?
But outside the commission, maybe over 700, 800.
Total? 800 total?
No, over 1,000 total.
Holy.
And that's not including kickboxing, Muay Thai, grappling, arm wrestling. You name it, I did it. Let me tell you something.
1,000 events is a lot. Like, you're talking, I mean, you were doing 2 and 3 a month at one point.
Well, I was doing actually at one time between 3 to 5 a month. Yeah, I was nuts.
Yeah.
I went crazy. This is just my personal opinion. I've been to a lot of shows, but I would definitely say Rage in the Cage, in terms of excitement, entertainment, is one of the better ones. We didn't always have the greatest talent, but when you got there, you were going to see a show, entertainment. That's my specialty. It's entertainment. I could just, my shows are electrifying. So yeah, I did a lot of, you name it, I did it. I even did karate events. Oh, I did midget wrestling shows too. Wrestling.
Okay. So you had your gym, you were doing Rage in a Cage. Some would argue the amount of work put into Rage in a Cage. You've only got so much time in the day and so much energy you can put towards projects. And the amount of shows that you were doing with Rage in a Cage, it probably took a lion's share of your time.
It was very difficult to be an instructor, a promoter, and being selfish that I wanted to train too. And it was very difficult once I got into MMA because these fighters took a lot of your time and they had no money. I don't have a lot of good things to say about fighters that I trained. 21 guys made it to UFC that came through my hands. This is the difference. You have instructors that can train fighters from clay, and you got instructors that can train fighters when the clay is already dried and you put the glaze over it. Anyone can do that. But I took 21 guys to the UFC with clay. That means they were nobodies. But do you think I get respect as one of the top instructors in history? No, I don't. I get no respect.
I would even say, I would even make the argument that some of the very successful surrounding gyms kind of built their business on the guys that started with you.
Well, that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
I gave fighters a platform. I gave instructors a platform to build the fighters their careers and the instructors to build their schools. And I don't really have a lot of good things to say. And I'm sure they would say the same thing about me. But what they don't realize is that I was in a fight as much as they were. And you promote, you know how difficult it is.
It's not easy.
Everybody thought that I was this rich guy, taking advantage of everybody. Little did they know, I was flipping the shows on a credit card. I was in debt. It was smoke and mirrors. Fighters thought everything was given to them for free. Oh, you don't even get me started. Don't even get me started.
Yeah. Here, let's talk about one of the early controversies coming from your area. Some would even say the seed was planted and the tree grew from your events, was John McCain, human cockfighting. He actually attended one of your events.
Yeah, I remember. It was 1999, July 10th. He was sitting front row looking at me like I was the devil.
Was he in a suit?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I had about 13 beers by that time.
Yeah. You drank at your own events?
Every event, I drank beer. I partied like a rock star like it was 1999.
All right. Let's go, John McCain. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I didn't get to speak to John that night. To be really honest with you, I really didn't even know who he was, to be honest with you. I knew he was, a senator or something? I have no idea. So he wasn't really much of a concern for me, to be honest with you. I didn't even know. I was a young man. I was fearless, ignorant. I'm a lot older now. There's no way in the world I would do what I did back then today, the way I think. I was just young, man. I was a maverick. I was wild. I was ready to rock and roll. I wanted to party. I was living it up, having a blast, a great time. And there's a lot of fighters that I've seen on podcasts, including yours, that badmouth me. But yet in front of my face, they act like they're my friends. I'm not going to say their names. They were in your podcast. I know they know who I am.
Yeah.
But they want to badmouth me. Little did they know, my show was not here to pay their rent for their apartment. My show was a stepping stone, a platform to make it to the UFC or Bellator or Strikeforce. So for them to get on television or podcasts and badmouth me the way they did hurts my feelings, because when they get around me, they sure act like they're my buddies. They lie so much. There's always two sides to every coin, as you know. But yeah, I wasn't too happy about it when I seen some of them say the things they said. One of them, I trained for free for years, but yet he wants to get on your podcast and talk about I didn't pay him much. Oh, really? What about all those years I trained you, let you train for free? I was your matchmaker, your publicist. Did I get paid for that? No, I didn't get paid for that. Yeah. They don't do that.
That's life of a promoter. I hate to say it like that. I mean, you try to limit the shrapnel, but there's so little money. Like it's like you're fronting 35 grand and maybe make 5 grand, maybe.
Yeah,
it's just like anybody with any common sense, just you wouldn't go, well, no, you shouldn't front all of that up front. Yeah, it is what it is. Early business. Chris Saunders, the first American black belt under Rickson Gracie. What was it like rolling with him?
Chris Saunders was a stud. He was this little goofy, dorky white guy. He was a construction guy, I believe. He looked as nerdy as they came. And he was so nerdy. He whooped my ass. When I first started training there, I was in shock. I'm thinking to myself, how the hell is this guy beating me? Chris was cool as they came. Chris was a cool customer. I have nothing but great things to say about Chris. I really like Chris a lot.
So how does he break through and get his black belt from Rickson? Something that's impossible.
I can tell you, because he was no threat. What I mean by no threat, he wasn't looking to be a fighter, open up a school. He was a yes sir man. You know, he was just a company man. And I think because of that, and I'll tell you what else, Chris paid his dues, man. That dude stuck around forever. And, you know, he deserved it. And, but he was a good guy. Chris was a great guy. I really like Chris a lot. That's what I kind of think. You know, he stuck around forever. I don't know, 10, 15 years, I think.
Wow. Yeah, he somehow was able to kind of break through where many others had tried and failed.
Yeah. Henry Hakens made it through. He was one of the few too.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about early business partner, Gino Lucadamo.
Gino's cool. Gino was, you know, believe it or not, Gino created Rage in the Cage, the name. He came up with it. Gino, I didn't know Gino real well. I know he came out of New Mexico, and he would train with me occasionally. And he decided to go in with me on the first event. And I can't remember what happened, but it went south. Now, I don't know if you want to call him my partner because there was no money invested in him with me.
Okay.
But he was a partner in terms of support and et cetera. But Gino was a great guy. He's still my friend. But we did one show together. And then after that, it just didn't work out.
Okay. That's life. Did you ever get on a mat with Rodrigo Vaghi?
No. I don't know who that is.
Another Rickson black belt. He's in St. Louis area right now. Very, very accredited instructor.
What's his name?
Rodrigo Vaghi.
Not sure.
Okay. Do you remember the old owner of a Gracie Barra in Phoenix, Marc Zee?
Yeah, of course. I know Mark real well. He died.
What was his background?
I don't know. I think Mark was maybe a wrestler in high school, maybe. And then he got into Jiu Jitsu. And I mean, I heard that he got strung out on drugs, and that's why he died. But I like Mark personally. Mark was, he fought Rage in the Cage before. You know, how can I not respect the guy? The guy got in the ring. I mean, how many black belt instructors you know that are going to do that? Not many.
Well, there were some questions on his black belt at one point as well.
Well, you know what, man? I've seen Mark compete quite a bit, and they can say whatever they want about Mark, but Mark was legit.
Then that's it. Okay.
Mark was legit.
Yeah, I mean that's it. You know, that's it.
I mean, Mark competed with the gi, without the gi, did cage fights. You know, unlike a lot of those cowards out there that try to pretend they competed before and they have their students believe that there's some super instructors. And I'm not saying that you have to fight to be a great instructor. That's not what I'm saying. But the way I see it is there's a big difference between teaching in class and competing. Big difference.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I didn't fight MMA till I was 48 years old. Can I tell you why I didn't fight? Can I tell you why?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
I was scared.
Oh, wow.
I was scared to lose in front of my students. And I waited till I was 48 years old to do it. And I got the monkey off my back. Did I look that good? Not really. I looked all right. But it's okay. I did it. You know, I did it. I emceed my show and I promoted my show at the same time. I was the first fight of the night. I went 3 rounds with the journeyman. You know, the guy was low level. But it doesn't matter if you're low level or not. The other guy, the fact that you fight. You got out there. And I love it. I did a boxing match too. Drunk too.
I wouldn't do that. I would highly recommend against that. Arizona Commissioner, John Montano.
Well, you know, John was cool with me. I mean, I never had any really no problems with John. I mean, John had a reputation of being a tough commissioner. He was, but I personally got along great with him. We had no problems. Matter of fact, he helped me to be one of the greatest promoters in history that I am. And it was because of John. John was hard on me. John gave me discipline. He was rough on me, and he made me better and better. So I have nothing really bad to say about John. I thought John was great. Everybody hated him. I did.
Yeah, he was known for being tough, and he publicly chastised you a few times.
Did he really?
Yeah, that's life, though. You know what I mean? Like, you were doing unsanctioned events. You know, you got letters from him.
I don't think I was doing them when he was the commissioner.
No?
No, it wasn't him. It was a different commissioner. But let me clear the air on that word you just said, unsanctioned events. I was able to figure out the law in a way that they didn't like, because it's called intelligence. And I never broke one rule, ever. I did shows that were not under their jurisdiction. So just to clear that up, I never did one show that was unsanctioned.
Yeah, no. And you know what? It wasn't.
No,
it wasn't the law. It wasn't the law at the time. Like, I did unsanctioned events before the law was passed. You know, you could, even if you wanted to do a sanctioned event, you couldn't have. So it is what it is.
Well, you heard about me a couple of years ago when I was all over the news about doing all the unsanctioned events.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was all over the news because I was informed that I was investigated by doing illegal shows. Well, I didn't know what they were talking about. I was totally confused. And then I finally got served by a police officer. So I read what the allegations were, and the allegations were that I was doing professional boxing events. Really? You're joking. No, I wasn't. So make a long story short, it was cleared up. I got reinstated and I was doing shows again after that. But I never did a professional boxing event. The shows were not boxing events. But I was accused of doing professional boxing events. So there was a big misunderstanding on the allegations against me.
How much money did it cost you?
Not much.
Really?
I have friends.
Oh my God, dude. I had an issue in Indiana.
Oh, no way.
Dude, it cost me like $4,000. It cost me like $4,000. And like, the guy who's no longer there, total friggin' dork. Ugh. He was just made up.
Well, you remember Todd Medina, the fighter?
Of course, dude. He got in a fist fight at your event.
Well, he fought Edwin DeWeese, and Ed DeWeese put him in an arm bar, and the boxing commission called the fight without Todd submitting. So after the fight, I know Todd, but from LA, he's walking towards me. I'm thinking he's going to thank me. He headbutts me in the face and breaks my nose. And then the police happened to be right next to, kind of near me. They seen what was happening. They put him in the patrol car and asked me if I want to press charges, and I said, no, don't worry about it. So the scenario is that in those days, the commission really wasn't trained properly to be in that position to regulate MMA. So it was our first couple of years of MMA, it was slapping, by the way.
Yeah, it was like pancreas rolls. Mm-hmm. All right, so Todd Medina, in our interview with him, he said that he uses the arm bar in order as an escape. He's double jointed. He's unarm barrable. and the referee stopped it when he was using it as an escape, and
possibly.
He took his anger out on the promoter, and he headbutted you. Yes, yeah, he talked about that.
I mean, the judges or whatever, they can't read minds that he's double jointed or what he's doing. So yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, I was just in shock that Todd did that to me, knowing I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But
let me throw some names at you. Let's talk about John Petrelli.
John Petrelli was my confidant from the beginning to the end. He was my greatest business partner in history. That man never wavered, loved me, and I loved him. He died a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He was the most incredible man in business I've ever met. We never got paid nothing. He did it for the love of the sport. That guy, the MMA community owes that man, and at least in Arizona, so much what he did. He was the heart and soul of the show, believe it or not. That guy was, what a great man.
So the independent grind is filled with heroes like that deserve to be in the UFC Hall of Fame. Jeff Osborne, Monty Cox, John Petrelli, in my opinion, is in that category. He match made so many fighters.
You're forgetting somebody.
Yeah, man, dude, I'm not saying your name. I'm just talking about other guys. That literally.
I haven't heard my name.
Yeah, what I'm trying to, let's talk. These people, they broke their backs. They put gas in their tanks of their own car without ever getting the money back for reimbursement in order to make things happen for guys. You're in that category as well. You're a legend of the independent grind. Joe Goitia, another guy that belongs there. The guy, Chicago guy. Let's talk about Shannon Rich.
Shannon Rich was awesome. Me and Shannon worked together for almost, I don't know if it was a year or two, promoting together. One of my favorite guys I ever worked with. He was awesome.
Homer Moore.
Homer, I had a great relationship with Homer. You just needed to understand Homer. Homer was a fame whore, but he was a stud. I was with Homer. I cornered Homer when we went to Rumble in the Rock when he beat Chad Sonnen. It was ridiculous what they did that night.
Is he? Do you still have contact with him?
A little bit. Not really. No.
Is he locked up or is he out of jail?
No, he's out of jail. He's been out of jail for years.
I'm gonna reach out to him. I'm gonna do one of these with him.
Homer was cool. I got along great with Homer. He never bothered me. The guy was a big ticket seller. I tell you, I flew out to Hawaii for Rumble in the Rock, and I cornered him with 1 day notice, and he beat Chan's son and controlled him, dominated him for 3 rounds.
Yeah, Homer Moore's legit.
They raised Homer's hand. 2 hours later, we were partying at the after party, and they said they're going to overturn the decision because they watched the films. Really? Well, Chad Sonnen was training with BJ Penn for the last few weeks. So, of course, who owned the show, right?
Yeah.
I went to the Rumble and Rock the first couple shows when they first started. That was the Penn brothers did an incredible job.
Gilbert Aldana.
Gilbert was a very close friend of mine. He worked with my friend as a security guard. Matter of fact, the night before, I was supposed to be going with him and my friend David Conant to the lake to go. My friend had a boat, just not to water ski, but just go to the lake. And I didn't go. At last minute, changed my mind, and Gilbert jumped in the water and came up struggling. And then my friend Dave Conant, ex-police officer, NP in the military, and et cetera, dove in the water, but Gilbert was pulling him down, so he had to let go. And then Gilbert was gasping for air and then never came back up.
Do you think he had a heart attack?
No one knows. They found him like 6 months later underneath like the bottom of the lake, underneath a rock or something. Gilbert was very raw. He didn't have a lot of skills. I didn't work with him that much personally. I was kind of in a stage in my life, I was kind of out of it as an instructor.
Okay.
And we dove into it with very short notice. The first fight that he had, I didn't think it was a good fight for him. He fought a real rugged guy. I forgot his name.
Go ahead. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, he fought a veteran, but I can't remember his name. Big Mexican dude.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
He was on The Ultimate Fighter. Go ahead. Tall guy.
Yeah, Gilbert fought him. They went 2 rounds. And then Gilbert fought Kiki Changa, whatever his name is, the guy from France. And Gilbert was picking him up, body slamming him, controlling him on the ground. The referee kept standing Gilbert over and over and over. Gilbert's tired. Well, Gilbert lost, I think, in the second round. And then after the fight, I came up to the referee. I can't remember his name. I said, what were you doing, raising him all the time? Well, he wasn't that active. No. You didn't give him much time. You stole the fight from him. But anyways, and then he fought Rage in a Cage, I think one more time after that, and then he died.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a shame. Yeah. Gustavo Dantas.
Gustavo was he was a Brazilian instructor that he was part of a gym called ACS. And I don't think he was very happy with me for several reasons. I didn't know him that well. He seemed pretty cool personally. Seemed like a real nice guy. We were competitors, and sometimes when you're competitors, you have to make decisions that can probably piss each other off. I pissed him off. He pissed me off. He's a great promoter. I mean, look what the guy has done with BJJ. The guy's a monster. He's incredible. But personally, I don't really know him that well. Like I said, we were competitors, and we were trying to outdo each other, but that's about it. I don't really know him personally. He fought Rage Cage twice, I think.
Yes. Yeah. In 2012, you had enemies coming in trying to poach your territory. Asher Lutz out of Ohio comes in with a coalition of combat. How do you deal with that? These people coming in trying to take your territory.
In those days, I was totally different than I am today. I was very insecure. I was territorial as well. I would handle it totally different today. I would embrace them. If we were to go back in time, know what I know today, I would have handled so many things differently. So naturally, I've seen him as a competitor. I don't think I've ever met him. I don't think. I never went to his shows.
He was very vocal about you.
Yeah, I don't know who he is. I don't think I've ever met him, or maybe I met him, but I don't know if I knew who he was. I have nothing bad to say about the guy personally. I don't even know who he is. I think I went to one of his shows. I think at Fort McDowell Casino, and they escorted me out.
It's true.
But I don't know if it was his show or not. But I don't even know who the guy is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you were on his radar, but that's what happens. Yeah, it is what it is. What about Rick Roufus?
Rick Roufus, I didn't know Rick that well, other than I know he was a great kickboxer. I don't know if he liked me or not. I personally had nothing against the guy. I really didn't know him, other than I knew he was a badass kickboxer. I didn't know Rick that well. He would come to the shows occasionally. I remember him and Homer Moore were going to go at it once during a Rage in a Cage show, the back. But I didn't really know Rick that well, to be honest with you. He seemed like a real nice guy. Matter of fact, I seen him about a year ago in a coffee shop, and we chopped it up for a few minutes. But I don't know. Did he hate me too? I don't know.
No. He's a legendary kickboxer from your area. Just trying to, get some background. Because, you as a promoter, you had to deal with a lot of different promoters or gym owners, and he's a gym owner. I just, there's not a lot about Rick out there on the internet, so it's just getting your perspective.
Yeah, I don't know. I know when he first came here, he had a gym, and I think it was doing really well. I think, but I wasn't too close to the kickboxing guys.
Okay,
that
you
industry.
did promote kickboxing events though.
Yeah, I did kickboxing shows and Muay Thai shows, but I was sort of like an outsider, sort of. I wasn't truly like embraced. But the kickboxers and Muay Thai guys, the instructors and fighters were great.
Rick Reyes, your former announcer.
Rick Reyes was another great. Started with me from the beginning to the end. Did you know Rick Reyes beat Buffer out in an MC once in Phoenix?
Well, are we talking early Buffer or current Buffer?
Early Buffer. It was like who's the best MC, and Rick Reyes beat him.
That's not surprising. Listen, Bruce, I'm sure he's a great human being. Fighter fighting out of the red corner, like he's kind of got his Bruce. I mean, he's an acquired taste. I can understand how somebody could beat him in a DJ contest.
They know more. They know more.
Yeah, not surprising. One of MMA's absolute mad geniuses, a guy that he's ruffling everybody's feathers, but he kind of does it to disrupt the room in order to figure out a game plan. It's Drew Fickett.
Drew Fickett.
You have got to have a million Drew Fickett stories.
Drew Fickett, as a competitor, he's a stud.
Yeah.
Tough as they came. But I did see his interview about me. Did you know I confronted him about that?
No.
He came to one of my shows, and I came right up to him and I said, hey, I want to talk to you. I seen your interview, man.
But I don't think he was that bad. He didn't really badmouth you. I don't think he.
No, he said. No, I wasn't there to confront him in a fight or nothing.
Yeah.
I was just in shock that he would sort of hint to that area that I'm cheap and I screwed him over, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, really, dude? After all the things I've done for you, I took care of that guy in so many different ways when he, don't even get me started, but it's aside of that, I always got along great with Drew personally. I was just hurt, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I like Drew. I've always liked Drew.
When Drew Fickett got locked up, did you put money on his books?
I didn't even know he got locked up.
He was supposed to be on The Ultimate Fighter. And then he ran his truck through like a Papa John's pizza place because they weren't honoring him, like getting free pizza.
I didn't even know about that.
Are you kidding me?
No, I didn't know. I'll tell you what he did do to me. I was in New Mexico. I did a show and he popped all my tires.
Why?
Because I think he lost that night. He was pissed off.
To that guy?
He was a very lucky man that night.
He's not afraid to go to prison.
Was he? How long did he go in jail for?
I think he did like a year, but like and he's sober now. Like I mean, the last time I talked to him, he was sober. But when he was drinking, like in Abu Dhabi, it was in Trenton, New Jersey. Yeah. They flew him home early because of all the chaos he was creating there, like including like I don't want to say what he did. Let's just say he urinated in a place that he definitely shouldn't have done. So some would say it's a very holy place where he decided to empty his bowels, but they sent him home like a day early. Like it,
Yeah, he was going to fight Rage in the Cage, and right before the fight, they didn't let him fight because he was too drunk.
yeah, he was homeless for a while. Now he seems to be doing good.
Yeah, I don't know much about Drew, like in his personal life. I personally like Drew. I got along great with him. He was a badass. I didn't even know he went to jail. What was that called? Would you say something about books?
When people go to prison, they call it like money on the books. Like, here, go get some ramen noodles, some fresh
Oh
T-shirts.
no, I didn't even know he was in jail.
But I mean, you've put money on fighters' accounts in prison, though. Am I correct?
Never,
Really?
never.
That's shocking to me.
Put it this way. I've had so many guys trained through my school that were criminals. I didn't even know. They had me totally fooled. Let me tell you something about me. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't drink hard liquor. I just drink beer. I was never in that world, like crime and violence. Uh, I, I look like the type of guy that might have been that guy, but I'm what you call a cool nerd. I'm cool looking, I'm cool, but I'm a nerd. I never even knew who went to prison. I couldn't tell you one thing about who was in prison and what was going on. Even Homer. Homer used to call me from prison, and I would hang up on him and say, "Dude, stop calling me." Blank. I'm not going there. That's the only guy that I've ever known that went to prison and called me. Other than that, I can't think of anyone. What, people said that I did that or something?
No. I mean, you're an old school promoter. Like, every old school promoter I know has had a fighter that did them some solids, gets locked up. Throw him $20 every once in a while. Dude, I had a guy that was robbing banks. He was locked up for like 4 or 5 years. I threw, I don't know, a few $100s a year on his books just out of respect.
I never did.
Huh.
I didn't even know who went to jail. Homer's the only guy that I can think of that went to jail. Oh no, I had a student that was robbing banks. I think he was a cop, and they arrested him, and he went to prison.
It's incredible people we run into. And Homer Moore beat a murder case, a federal murder case.
Right.
Federal murder. Dude. Federal murder case.
Is that big?
Dude, it's just, you got to assume for 9 months they've listened to your phone calls. Yeah.
Oh, did they? Yeah.
I mean, that's you have to assume. So I mean, and they certainly skirt the law to get a conviction. Yeah.
You know, I never got involved with those guys. I never partied with them. Their lives was a totally different life than mine. I was a lot older than a lot of those guys. I'm 61 years old. So these guys, 20 years younger than me, most of them, or more. So I didn't hang around in their circle at all. Okay. I couldn't even tell you what these guys were doing in their personal lives. Like, all I knew was they came to train and or fight. I had no idea what these guys did in their personal lives. I never cared. I didn't even know.
Yeah. Let's close with the guy that's done really well for themselves. That started in your area, Dominick Cruz.
Dominick used to fight in my show when he was really young. He was a great little fighter. I didn't really know Dominick that well, other than he had a little bit of a mouth, a little feisty, little booger, but it was cool. I get it. Next thing I know he moved to San Diego, and the rest is history. He kicked ass. But I personally didn't know him that well. I mean, he was pretty cool with me. I mean, I've heard things that he doesn't like me. I'm like, oh,
it doesn't surprise me. Well, the thing with Dominick is, like, people look at him. He's very well spoken, right, and he's pristine with his haircut, his look, his suits. Like, he presents very well. But where he comes from is a trailer park. And you knew Dominick Cruz when he was in the trailer.
Yeah, I didn't know that about him.
Well, I think this is where we got to end the interview. Ladies and gentlemen, if you really like stuff like this, I need a like, a share, subscribe. If you could also leave comments on YouTube, on the Apple app, the podcast app, if you can leave a review, all of that stuff really helps me out. Spotify, give me 5 stars. Anything you guys write in the reviews, I promise you I'm going to read it as long as it's 5 stars. Whatever it is you do, I got it. I close with Cejudo, and we're wrapping this thing up, dude.
Yeah, Henry trained with me his junior and senior year in high school. Ready for this? Henry was part of my setup crew for the cage.
You know what, dude? That's what makes champions. That's what makes champions. You got to do that.
I used to call him the atomic flea because he was a little booger. I used to train with him, and he was fun. He was just a little tiger,
Did you know he was special at a very early age?
Well, yeah, I would think so. Yeah, because when I grappled, I had a side control pressure that can practically break your rib cage. I don't know if people told you about that, but
yeah, I heard about your top pressure. Yeah,
and
your strength.
And he would take it, and I was like in shock. And that's when I knew. I said, "Man, who is this kid?" I had no idea who he was. I just kept thinking, "Who is this little tiny guy? My God, he's a stud." And then they told me about his high school wrestling background. I said, "Yeah, I can see that," but I never knew he was going to go to that level. Because yeah. So a lot of the guys that train with me, like Seth Belinsky and all these guys, I was a little surprised they went as far as they went. That really surprised me. I was like, wow.
Yeah, Dewey's as well. I mean, you get Joe Riggs, legend Joe Riggs. Like you guys had a pretty cool scene. Ty Upshur. There's another guy that started with you.
Yeah, Ty Santino DeFranco.
Santino DeFranco. Yeah.
I mean, I can go on and on and on. I just can't remember their names anymore. It's been so many years, and it was a bittersweet industry. Looks like I'm going to get back into it next year. I got a casino deal ready to rock.
Good. Rage in the Cage, same name?
Yeah.
Good. Roland Sarria, career controversy. Here's the thing. You don't shy away from it.
Well, it's like this. You want to be different in life? You got to take a risk sometimes. Do you want to be a pigeon or you want to be an eagle? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be funny. No one likes my sense of humor.
Hey, Roland, I appreciate your time, brother. Joe Pardo, big thank you to him.
But I want to tell you one last thing. I want to thank you for interviewing me. That means a lot to me because not many people do. And I say this to everybody out there. Don't judge me unless you meet me, okay? I wouldn't be in the industry as long as I have unless I was the real deal made out of steel.
Here's some guys that fought on his cards. So, dude, we could do an entire episode just on Rage in the Cage cards. Justin Gaethje, Vince Lucero, George Roop, Ed West, Brad Pohl, Santino DeFranco, Edwin Dewey's, Jamie Varner. Like it's just it goes on and on and on. That Arizona scene is pretty cool. CB Dalloway, I believe, fought there as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you guys enjoyed this as much as me. Sorry about the edits. Sometimes it'd be that way.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.